On this episode of Survive and Thrive 8791, I welcome Maria Hanson to the Buck and Honey's remote studios. Maria has spent over 30 years advocating for LGBTQIA plus rights, criminal justice reform, animal rights, recovery, domestic violence, and mental health. 10 years ago, physical and mental struggles shook her world. Maria had to advocate for herself. By asking for help, she discovered her strength. Vulnerability, what once felt like weakness, became her superpower. This will be a good one. Here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. What is up wherever you are or whatever you are doing? I hope you're having a great day. Welcome to another episode of Survive and Thrive 8791. I'm your host, Coach Decora. We are in the Buck and Honey's remote studios on the east side of our great capital city of Madison, Wisconsin. You can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, iHeartRadio, and YouTube at Survive and Thrive 8791. You can follow the podcast on Facebook now at Survive and Thrive 8791, the podcast. Or you can follow me for a wild ride on Instagram and Twitter at tdecora8791, as well as hitting me up on Facebook as well, Tim Decora. Don't forget to hit that subscribe or like button wherever you listen to the show. Leave me a comment if you liked what you heard. If there's a topic or you know a person who would love to tell their story, email me at tdecora@gmail.com. Glad you could join us today. Our mission is to share stories and conversations that make you cry, laugh, and think, stimulating emotions, creating laughter, and inspiring the mind. A new episode will air on Monday and Thursday morning featuring a wide range of guests. The podcast will touch on many subjects such as, but not limited to, grief, loss of a loved one, recovery, professional setback, divorce, success despite challenges, etc. Our guests will share how they learn to survive and thrive. This is where I get into the episode and guest intro, and I always pull a little interesting tidbit from the World Wide Web information superhighway. According to the internet, and the internet is always right, correct, Maria?
Oh, positively.
Positively. I like it. It might be the first positively. But if you're in my house, I don't need the internet or Google. I've got my wife. She's always right.
There you go.
Adults with disabilities report frequent mental distress almost 5 times as often as those without disabilities, with significant disparities in mental health outcomes, including higher rates of depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts. Today, I welcome a good friend of mine, say about 10 or 11 years, Maria Hanson, to the Buck and Honey's remote studios. Born in Chicago, Illinois, Maria would graduate from a small town just west of us, Richland Center High School. Mm-hmm. After high school, Maria would take her talents to Madison Area Technical College. That was the old MATC, which is now rebranded to Madison College, where she would earn an associate degree in human services. She would then finish her schooling at Edgewood College with a degree in sociology. After her college days were over, she would embark on a career that has spanned over 3 decades, advocating for LGBTQIA plus community, corrections, animal rights, disabilities, domestic violence, and mental health issues. Today, I'm so glad you could join us. Maria Hanson, what is up?
Thank you, Tim. Glad to be here.
Glad to be here. I'm glad we found out that you don't live very far away from me.
No, right around the corner from you.
Right around the corner. Right. Speaking of right around the corner, spring is right around the corner, and we're on a Friday recording this episode. What are you looking forward to this spring / summer?
Positively getting out there and hiking and camping. That is my thing. I love to be out in the wilderness. It is one of those things that revives me and keeps me going, being out in nature. I may be a city girl by birth, but I have fallen in love over the last 35 years with nature. Well, 40 years altogether. In 45 or so years in Wisconsin, I have fallen in love with the country and the woods. Any chance I get to go up north and hang out in the homesteads with my native friends, I am the happiest camper in the world.
Put your thumb up for a second. Is it green? Do you have a green thumb?
I do not have a green thumb. I cannot grow anything. I kill almost anything I try to keep alive. My secretary keeps the plants in my office alive, but I love nature. I can't grow it, but I do love it.
Yes, I do. I do remember you doing a lot of like camping, even camping on your own and
Yep.
doing some things on your own and hiking, and that's getting out in nature is a good thing.
Oh, I love it. Every week I'm out there hiking.
30 plus years wearing many hats in advocacy. Wow. I mean, that's a long time doing some of the work for some people that maybe you're the voice for a lot of other people that maybe don't have a voice, is what I heard in advocacy. What has been your proudest, I'm going to say, moments, because I know you're more than just one in advocacy.
I think some of my proudest moments was because I was removed from the Army because I was gay, helping to get gays in the military. You know, that happened with Clinton. So I was kicked out during the Bush era. And so when gays were still not allowed in the military, so helping with the movement to get gays in the military. Fighting for gay marriage was a big thing, being part of that. Also, one of the biggest things in mental health was being one of the 8 or 9 women who sat down and created the Certified Peer Specialist program here in the state of Wisconsin, where now we have over 2,000 certified peer specialists here in the state of Wisconsin providing recovery support and peer support to patients and clients and peers throughout the state of Wisconsin. And I've worked for 25 years at Mendota being the Certified Peer Specialist Coordinator, and that has been just life rewarding more than anything in the world.
I know about a week or so ago, we talked about NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness.
Yep, and I'm on the board of directors for that, and that is another wonderful organization that I'm proud to be a part of.
They're a huge organization, and last spring I was fortunate enough, because of me telling my story about my mental health struggles and then being in recovery, I got a little pat on the back from NAMI.
I saw you got an award, Tim. I'm proud of you. Good job.
Award for getting out and then instead of suppressing, letting some of the stuff out, and it got me an award. But more importantly, it got me just a better way to live without having all of that stuff hold me down. When you started talking about some of the things you do, I saw a huge smile, and those of you that are on Spotify can probably see the smile, but she got a big, huge smile on her face when she started talking about all of the stuff you do. I'm glad you wear that smile. Keep that smile.
I've been blessed. I've been blessed to be able to fight hard for people I love and care about and do the work that makes change.
Absolutely. Before we get to your story, I need to talk about our sponsor quick. Our sponsor, Buck and Honey's Restaurants, are a place that people can escape to. For me, it's escaping from cooking dinner with their great food and drink menu, 5-star customer service, and a welcoming and vibrant atmosphere. People keep coming back with locations in Sun Prairie, Monona, Wanakee, and Mount Horeb, most communities in the Dane County area, and that encompasses Madison, Wisconsin, can get to a Buck and Honey's within 10 to 15 minutes. And this is where I give a little drum roll. Have you been to Buck and Honey's before?
I have been to Buck and Honey's in, I believe, Wanakee, and I love the food. I don't remember exactly what I ate, but the environment was wonderful, and I had a wonderful time with my friend. I think we went there for a brunch.
Okay. I was going to say they have a welcoming and vibrant atmosphere. But next time you go, try the Bomber's Special. It's a pizza, and I've been eating that since as long as you've been advocating, about 40 years.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it's been a long, long time. On the podcast, our guests will follow the format for sharing their story like this. In segment 1, we talk about what was it like. So Maria will talk a little bit about her history and what happened to get her on the episode. And in segment 2, we continue to talk about what happened, and then we get into what it's like now and discuss Maria's 5 suggestions for thriving. So segment 1, what was it like before and what happened? You were born in Chicago and you grew up in the Windy City. Then you would move at some point to Richland Center and graduate a Hornet, Richland Center Hornet. Definitely 2 speeds of life. Chicago being a little bit faster, and then you're the second guest I've had on from Richland Center. My good friend Brady Ewing said life is a little bit slower in Richland Center. Talk about Chicago first.
So Chicago, I grew up in a conservative Jewish family, but my family really didn't like me. My grandmother was a survivor of the Holocaust, and she had a mental illness. So did my mother. And so I was abandoned in Chicago, and it was kind of an interesting world that I grew up in. I grew up very poor. I grew up very traumatized. There was a lot of trauma, a lot of abuse, but there was also a lot of love. And that's what I really want to point out. Where I ended up in life, though it was tough, though it was very traumatic, though there was a lot of drugs and alcohol and hardship, there was also a lot of love. There was a lot of other mothering, as we call it. The women in the neighborhood watched over you and cared for you and tried to help you stay out of trouble as best they could.
Steer you in the right direction.
Steer you in the right direction, sort of guide you. I think you know that from your background too. There's always those women, those motherly grandmothers and aunties who sort of, even if they're not their real auntie, guide you sort of to try to go the right direction, get you to church on Sunday morning, do what they can to do right by you. And so I grew up in that environment, the Baptist church, the whole environment there. And I ended up getting into trouble and ending up in juvenile hall. And a social worker there found out who my biological parents were. And that, at the age of 12, is how I ended up back in Richland Center. I was shipped back to my parents. My father had returned from 20 years in the military, and he was back with my mother. And boom, I was there suddenly. He came and picked me up from juvenile hall, took me back to Richland Center, and I ended up going to middle school and high school in Richland Center. Very different environment. So it was a real culture shock for me. But my father said it really well. He says, Maria, you're like a chameleon. You fit in wherever you kind of get thrown in. And I became a gymnast and a cheerleader and, was one of the popular kids. But I had a party side. And that was the side where the alcoholism came in. Very early on, I was using alcohol and drugs to fit in. Just really partying hard on the weekends with the other jocks and with the burnouts and just really heavily using a lot of drugs and alcohol because there's still a lot of abuse and trauma in my family. My dad was abusive, sexually, emotionally, physically. My mom wouldn't talk to me because she was just denying everything she had done to me. My sister was abusive, my middle sister, while she was still there before she went off to the Air Force. So she was abusive. And so it was just a really harsh environment at home. But, I kind of stuck around for as long as I could there because it was 3 squares in a roof, so it was a place to stay. And I stayed there and graduated from high school and joined the Army as soon as I could. There was other things, but I did have a kid in that time, got pregnant early, kind of because I was running away down to New Orleans from my family. My dad didn't accept that child, and so I ended up getting married at 16. 1986, got my diploma and went to Greece with my husband. He was not a good guy either. He was abusive, so I ended up joining the Army to get away. It was a great way to get a career. I wasn't very educated other than a high school diploma, and so I joined the Army, got away from him, and really did well in the Army. The Army was a saving grace for me. I was good at the physical aspects of it, the mental aspects of it, the emotional aspects of it. Ended up becoming a sergeant very quickly after I got in, got my corporal stripes, got my sergeant stripes pretty early. Just really excelled in the military. Thought I was going to have a 20-year career in it. Didn't work out that way. I married a wonderful man while I was in the military, Robert. He was absolutely a delight. He was another Jewish man. But he couldn't save me from the witch hunts. And they found out I was gay, and I was kicked out of the military. And I ended up back here in Madison. I lost my son to custody to my first husband. And I ended up back here in Madison, which was close to Richland Center, but it was a gay mecca. I figured I'm going to come to Madison because it's the only place I know in the Midwest. Chicago's big, and I liked the sort of rural area. I liked the rural part of Richland Center, but it was too rural for me. Madison was rural enough, but it was gay. There's a lot of gay community. There was gay bars. There was a gay mecca here. And so I came to Madison and fell in love with it. I've stayed here since then, really enjoying the Madison community. And this community has paid off really well. I mean, one of the things I've won here is I've won Lesbian of the Year while I've been in Madison. That many people win Lesbian of the Year. It's kind of an odd award to win. So I've had a really good time here in Madison. I did find myself really abusing alcohol and drugs a lot when I first got here because I had low-paying jobs. I tried to advocate. I got out to MATC. I did do really well at school, though. Like in MATC, I excelled in school, which was really surprising for me because being in the military, I was a soldier. I was smart at being a soldier, but I didn't consider myself very smart. Like I didn't think I was academically smart. I got into MATC and I was really, really good at it. Like all the paper writing and all the knowledge stuff and studying and reading books. I was good at it and it really surprised me. Along with that, I was doing internships at the outreach center, the Gay, Lesbian, Bi Outreach Center, and I was excelling at that. I had a lot of fire in my belly. I was really angry. I was angry at the world, and that's why I became an advocate, because I was angry at the world. I was angry what they did to us as gays. I was angry what they were doing to the disabled. I was angry what they were doing with minorities, and so I wanted to fight all. I just was filled with anger, just driven to do well, and I did really well at my work and schooling. I went on to go to Edgewood College because my teacher said you really should go on and get a bachelor's degree. I thought they were like joking that I would be good at a bachelor's degree. I still didn't believe I was good enough to be a student. Went on to Edgewood, ended up becoming the class speaker for that class. I ended up graduating top of my class, which still surprises me to this day. You know, I ended up congratulating all the nuns for putting up with me. Graduated top of my class there. I got accepted into law school. It was a nice Catholic nun who told me, you're going to be a lawyer. And I'm like, I am not going to be a lawyer. What are you talking about? I don't want to be a lawyer. She goes, nope, that's what you're going to do. You're going to become a lawyer. Apply to law school. So I applied to Madison, Chicago, and Harvard. And I got accepted into all three. And the only one I could afford was Madison. So it's the cheapest one. So I went to UW-Madison. And I'm glad, because Harvard would have been too hard. But I went to Madison and barely graduated, because by that time my alcoholism had taken its toll on me. I was barely surviving as an alcoholic, and my mental illness was just ravaging my life. I had schizoaffective disorder. My moods, I was going in and out of the hospital every 6 to 7 weeks. It was a miracle that I graduated from law school, because I was really struggling with my mental illness. That burning fire that drove me was slowly eating away at me. You know, that anger, that hatred for the world that was abusing so many people. I was starting to deal with my mental illness. I had started to see a psychiatrist. I had started to see a therapist. I was starting to see that things could be better, but I wasn't dealing well with my alcoholism at that time. I hadn't gotten sober yet. It wasn't until about 24 years ago, after I had graduated from law school, that I got sober. And that really was a turnaround. That was when I started getting the idea that there might be something called love in the world, that there might be something called compassion in the world, that there might be something other to drive me than just my anger. And there were people in my life. There was a woman called Jane Rowe who told me she would love me long enough for me to love myself. There was my sponsor named Michael after I got sober who said, nobody's done more crazy things than me, even you. And he was right. And I started to forgive myself of all my shame doggies. I started to forgive myself of all my anger and all the broken relationships and all the tattered life I had lived and all the horrible things I had done in the military. And I started to find forgiveness in my heart for self. And most of all, I started to turn around my advocacy from an advocacy of hatred and anger to an advocacy of love and compassion. And that really motivated me in a whole different way.
So after all of this schooling, and that's a lot of schooling.
It's a lot of schooling,
plus on top of some schooling that you had taken in the military, you would embark on a 30-plus year career in advocacy, or maybe even more.
I was doing the advocacy while I was in school. I was an advocate for gay rights and disability while I was in school, so that was part of that 30 years. And then afterwards, I ended up becoming an advocate in domestic violence after law school, and I did that for about 3 years. And then I ended up in mental health, which really was where things changed in my life. Because it was there that I started in patient rights, and then what really sort of tripped the trigger for me was becoming a certified peer specialist, doing that work before there were even certified peer specialists, and then helping build that field and make it happen. But it really was sobriety that sort of led me down the path to starting to have a different view of things, and starting to have that loving and compassionate way, being empathetic, being kind, being compassionate, and doing advocacy from that avenue rather than from the angry, bitter sort of view. Finally, what's funny is I don't use my law degree for much of anything, except I have a small business on the side I do with patient rights. I've learned how to think differently through my law degree, but my main goal in my education has been to use my education to help people understand that it's not education that gets you far, it's your lived experience.
And that helps in one of the items I'm going to share right now is in your bio, you mentioned recovery is your life journey and a source of personal, because it's helped you, I think, as a person and professional wellness, because it's helped you develop some of these programs you talked about, peer support specialist, and then the people that you work with at Mendota. That has done you well, and it's done your patients well. Because our listeners want to hear how things turn out and some of the coping strategies that you use, and plus the other real reason why we have you on here is you're going to share some of those coping strategies that you can use for people that struggle with addiction, and yours was alcohol, and who also struggle with some mental health issues. I want to get to that. Before we do, we got to talk about the sponsor one more time, and then we're going to shift gears to segment 2. Buck and Honey's has been with the Survive and Thrive 8791 crew since the beginning. With 4 locations in the Madison area, one is always near. People ask why Buck and Honey's. Owner Tom Anderson places a high priority on the mental health of his employees. He has a mental health professional available should they need support. I don't know how many businesses go above and beyond their EAP, Employee Assistance Program, but Buck and Honey's does. 10 years ago, and this is kind of also what got you on here, because of disability and mental health issues that Maria Hanson could no longer cope with on her own, she did what she hadn't done before. And we're going to leave that little cliffhanger out there. You'll find out what that is. Please stay tuned. Don't change that channel. You're not going to want to miss segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791. We'll be back.
If you, a loved one, or someone you know is experiencing a physical, mental, or emotional crisis, there is help and resources out there. Contact NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness Helpline, at 1-800-950-6264. This is a free service providing information, resource referrals, and support to people living with a mental illness, their family, providers, and the public. United Way 211 is available 24/7, 365, and offers free confidential assistance. They connect people with the local programs and services that can help. Dial 211. Emergency Crisis Services, dial 911. The Suicide Prevention Lifeline, dial 988. To connect via web, chat, visit suicidepreventionlifeline.org. Along with those numbers, there is help. You just need to say 3 words. I need help. Now, back to the show.
We are back. Welcome back to segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791. I'm your host, Coach Tim DeCora. The podcast is where I feature guests who share their story in hopes of helping others who may be struggling with what life throws at them. An advocate for over 30 years, Maria Hanson reached a breaking point herself 10 years ago. She did what a lot of people can't do or find hard to do, but it's so simple, yet so hard for some. She's here today to share her story in hopes that her journey will help others who experience anxiety and depression and then can get the necessary help they need to survive and thrive. So our listeners want to hear what you did that seems so hard for some. And what was that? Maria reached out to friends, and she used this big term that I'm very familiar with, and that's vulnerability. Say that 5 times as fast as you can. Vulnerability. I became vulnerable as well in 2021 and have been thriving since. But this has been your superpower, and you maybe looked at it as a weakness before, but then you probably realized, just like I did, that it can really, really help. Mm-hmm. Explain what that looked like for you, vulnerability.
Well, coming from a military background, we do not ask for help. We pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. We march through mud. We do what we need to do. But at about 10 years ago or a little longer, I was faced with breast cancer, knee replacement surgery, mental health breakdown, and a few other things were thrown in there. And I couldn't do it on my own. And in my head, I had it really messed up that my only option was suicide because I couldn't do it on my own. I was incapable of making it on my own, so I was no longer worth living. But there was something in me because I was in AA, because I was surrounded by people that loved me. I had many people that I had really positive relationships with. I thought, well, maybe maybe, just maybe, I could reach out for help. And I did. I reached out, and everybody in my circle of friends, I had this huge circle of friends, came to my rescue and supported me and helped me. And through my family leave and the time I was off work and the time I was working part-time at work, they were the biggest support to me. And I realized right then and there that vulnerability is a superpower. And I started working on my wellness plan and started working on being more aware of what I needed to take care of myself. And I learned right then and there that you cannot help others if you completely empty your well. All it leads to is a place of darkness and emptiness and depression and sadness and anxiety. And instead of that, I have now learned that keeping that well full, I'm a better advocate, I'm a better provider for the people I serve if I keep my well full and remain vulnerable, remain able to reach out to others. People can reach out to me and I can reach out to them if I keep my well full.
Yeah, you start to break free from anxiety, and that's the thing I had in my notes. But then in between, we were talking a little bit about some depression as well. So you had a little bit of both, the upper and kind of the downer, and you were trying to find that balance in your life, which we're going to talk about in a little bit.
Yep.
What was the biggest coping strategy that you used besides talking to your friends in recovery?
I think the practice of wellness is practicing, positive sleep hygiene, making sure that I ate properly, getting exercise, practicing gratitude, doing something that I really love to do. For me, it's hiking. As I mentioned before, I love hiking in the woods. I like going out camping, being something that I really enjoy, that revitalizes me, that fills my soul and spirit. But whatever your wellness plan is, whatever it is that you put together that keeps you healthy and whole, so that when you come home on the weekend, you're doing things, or on the weeknights, you're doing things that make you feel well and whole. And like I said, that fill that well so that you have something to give back to the world. If you constantly are emptying it, if you're constantly giving to your family, if you're constantly giving away everything, you're not going to have what it takes to be able to give to others. And so I make a point of, taking the time. I used to work 60, 70, 80-hour weeks every single week. And thinking that was good, that I was the good advocate because I worked an 80-hour week, that I was the best advocate there was. Today I work a 40-hour week. Put in my time, and then the rest of the time is mine. I take my vacation, I take my time off, and I do the things I love to fill my well, to fill my wellness plan, and to do what it takes to stay well.
I'm gonna go back a little bit, back in time here, a couple of minutes, and you talked about that vulnerability. So I'm trying to think like the listeners right now. What was it that you said to your friends in recovery when you said, I need help? What did that look like to you? What did that sound like? What did you need help with?
Well, at the time, I needed help putting on my socks. Quite literally. I couldn't put on my socks at the time. But it was other things, rides to the hospital, rides to appointments, somebody to write down notes when I was at the doctor and I was just too scared and freaked out about what was happening. Somebody would write notes for me. Sometimes just somebody to come over and talk to me, to kind of talk me through the craziness in my head that was going on. Lots of things like that. Just people to be around and support me. And people came from out of the woodwork to help me, from my church. I mean, I did have a church family too. It wasn't just early risers, my AA group. It was church members came and helped me. And I guess I had, when I looked around, I had thought when I was in that suicidal state, I thought I was all alone. But when I lifted my head up and I looked around, I was surrounded by loving people. I was completely surrounded by loving people. And everybody wanted an opportunity to help Maria. And I just it felt so warm. And now, being a 55-year-old, yeah, I am 55. I've just happened to be 56. Being a 56-year-old woman, stopping and looking around at my life, I know I never have to be alone again. Like, I know in my heart of hearts that I never have to be alone. And that is such a comforting feeling for a single 56-year-old lesbian to know that she never has to walk through life alone again.
I think what you just said gives people an opportunity to not get help. Well, I'm not going to go to therapy or the doctor or even the dentist because I don't have a ride. Instead, you did the complete opposite, and you started calling and leaning on people for rides to your recovery, rides to your doctor appointments. And then, instead of going and finding somebody to talk to, you invited people to your house.
I'd say reach out to your book club, reach out to your church organization. What I always say is people are so afraid to reach out because we're taught in our society to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. But the truth is, as much as you love to give, because most of us love to be givers. Most of us love to be givers. Most of us love to help other people out. It makes us feel good. Well, turn that around and stop and think. If you love to give, don't you think other people love to give too? And wouldn't they love to give to you? So let them have the opportunity to give to you. That's a gift you can give to someone else, the gift of giving to you. So if you're in need of help, don't just stumble along on your own. Talk to your book club, talk to your church group, talk to your support group, whatever it may be. Talk to your friends, talk to your coworkers. They're there for you if you just reach out and ask.
We've already touched on some of the things you're doing now. And we've also mentioned that you're an advocate for so many people. I think that if we toss in, and this will be promoted on Facebook and social media, and if somebody needs some help navigating some of the things that you have navigated, or what does advocacy look like, they can reach out to you on Facebook or social media to get in touch with you. But what are some of the things you are doing right now for advocacy? Let's just say this week. It's Friday. We're shooting this. What did you do this week or the last 2 weeks for advocacy?
Oh, well, let's see. I'm on the NAMI board of directors, and so I'm advocating on the NAMI board of directors with the NAMI conference coming up, and that's going to be coming up in April. I can't remember the dates right off the top of my head, but if you go to the NAMI Wisconsin website, you'll find the NAMI conference is coming up. I'm involved in building a community center for my church. The Eastmoreland Community Center is being built. We're tearing down in August our church, and we're going to be building a community center this year to serve food and services for the Whitehorse School and the Shank School, and so I'm involved in that. I'm also continue to be involved with my patients at Mendota to improving their lives and recovery on a regular basis every single day. I got 400 patients that are under my recovery wing that I keep taking care of on a daily basis. And that's kind of what keeps me busy right now. And so, between Eastmoreland Community Center for my church and NAMI Wisconsin with the board of directors and the 400 patients that I care for every single weekday, that's what keeps me going.
You're one of those people that need to have 25 hours and 8 days in a week. So keep doing what you're doing. This is where the subscribers, followers, and listeners take out the notebooks, pens, or pencils, and you're going to jot some things down. And I think this is good stuff. Here are Maria's 5 suggestions that have allowed her to survive and thrive after some mental health struggles. And we're going to have Maria back on in the future to talk about her physical struggles. Maria just kind of kept that generic a little bit today, but we're going to have you back on. Here's what you shared, and I'm going to toss these in underhand, softball style, and I'm going to say, go ahead and hit it. These are the 5 things that Maria shared that helped Maria get through these physical and mental struggles. Number 1, wellness. Go ahead and hit that.
That's just coming up with a plan, whatever it may be, that is your personal sort of guidebook on how to stay well. For me, it's hiking, gratitude, eating right, exercising, getting good sleep hygiene as best I can as a menopausal woman. That's always a hard thing. But, but sort of having a plan that you do that keeps you balanced. I mean, the main goal is to be balanced and have the energy to do the things you want to do. I can't live this very busy life I live. Oh, for me, it's also taking psych meds. That's a big part of my thing, too. I didn't mention that. But, taking my psychiatric meds helps keep me balanced. Doing acupuncture is another thing I do. So whatever it is, you get this. I have a nice list of things. And I also keep my wellness plan posted right above my desk so that I look at it every day and go, okay, I know what I got to do today. If I'm not doing it, if I start to get off course, I look at that wellness plan and say, what haven't I done today? What is it that I haven't been doing today that I need to do to stay well? And if I start knocking anything out or skipping things, I know I'm not on a path to wellness. And so it's important for me to follow my wellness plan, or else I get off base and then I'm not able to do things I love to do, like the community center, like taking care of the 400 guys, like being on the board of directors. If I want to do the things I love to do as an advocate, I got to do the wellness plan.
And you've already touched on this already, and some of my guests do this. They answer the questions ahead of time. But number 2, you just addressed this a little bit, balanced life. Go ahead and hit that.
Yeah. Balanced life is important. Keeping that wellness, keeping that work life in balance, making sure, I can't say it enough, people that put in 80, 60, 70 hour work weeks, that's not healthy. No matter how much you think it is, no matter how much, no workplace values you enough to wear you and burn you out. So it's really important to put in your 40 hours, make sure you take vacations, make sure you take time off, do what you love to do, spend time with your family, spend time with your friends. You can't have those people that are going to be there for you unless you put time in with them. Unless you put some time in and create those networks of friends and community to be there for you, they're not going to be there. If you're working 80 hours, you're not going to have that community to be there to support and help you. And so it's really important to sort of set boundaries at work and play and everything you do so that you have balance in your life, so that you have that network of friends who can be there for you.
And number 3, you touched on this with your work at your church, spiritual life. Go ahead and hit that.
Yeah, for me, I'm a spiritual mutt. There's no doubt about it. I was born Jewish. I was raised Baptist. Went through a Lutheran church at one point. I was born again for a little while. I've been a mutt all my life. I've studied religions from a very young age at my grandfather's knee. But there's one thing I know is I'm not God. That's the one thing I know. I'm not God, and there's something bigger than me. And when I lean into something bigger than me, I trust that the universe will work out. Even in these very challenging times we're living in right now, I trust that things will work out and that things will be okay. I have a deep and abiding trust, and the very nature of humanity is good. And I trust that, and it will be okay. This is coming from a Holocaust survivor's granddaughter. My grandmother survived the Holocaust, and I just have a deep belief that the world will be okay. And that's my faith.
Number 4, again, you brushed up on this, you became vulnerable. Go ahead and hit that.
I did. I came from a background of being very tough. My father was tough. He was, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, never cry. My mother was the kind, if you cry, I'll give you something to cry for. Being vulnerable was something we just didn't do. But I have come to find that I can cry publicly. I can let tears show. I can reach out for help, and people are there for me. And it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be gentle and soft. And my guys appreciate it. My Mendota guys appreciate the softer, gentler Maria. Because it gives them the chance to be vulnerable.
And number 5, we've ran this one quite a bit, but I'll let you touch on in case there's something that you may have missed. Number 5 is that advocacy.
I'll die with my hand upraised and fighting the good fight. I remember in law school, I thought about becoming a criminal lawyer, and I did that for about 6 months, and advocacy pulled me back in. I was born to be an advocate. I think as a young high schooler, I fought for the burnouts to get a chance to be on the school board. I have been fighting for rights for people since the day I could stand on my own 2 feet, and it's just something that's part of who I am. I always fight for the underdog. It's what I do. It's something deep inside of me. Just can't stand to see somebody not get their rights, and I will always fight for the underdog. It's what I do. It's who I am. It's what makes me tick, and it's just something that I can't help be part of.
That's dynamite. I love that fight, that pit bull in you. We're going to come back to you here in a little bit. What a great episode. I'm so glad you could join the Survive and Thrive 8791 crew today. Your story and how you thrived after some time was, 5 months of uncertainty is inspiring, with 3 physical health issues going on and then some mental health things. And you have come through and you have pulled up your bootstraps, but you've done it in a good way. By seeking out help and taking care of yourself. Your story reminds us all to have coping skills or mental health tools in the toolbox when something like a mental health scare and a physical health scare can strike out of nowhere. Despite your physical and mental struggles you have survived and thrived. Our call to action, Maria Hanson just shared her story on what it's like to experience a breaking point in their life. She went through a time of uncertainty, and because she started talking about her disabilities and mental health issues, she has come out a stronger person in the end. She hopes her story will let others know they aren't alone, and these things can come out of nowhere. Here are Maria's 5 suggestions that helped her survive and thrive. Number 1, personal wellness. Number 2, balanced life. Number 3, spiritual life. Number 4, became vulnerable. And number 5, advocacy, being an advocate for something, someone, a cause. Final thoughts as we close another great episode of Survive and Thrive 8791. Are there any final thoughts, Maria?
Well, I hope if you all could support NAMI Wisconsin if you can, because it's a wonderful organization. I've worked there, and I've also been a part of it for a number of years and enjoy the work they do throughout the state of Wisconsin. They're a wonderful organization, the National Alliance on Mental Illness Wisconsin, or your local affiliate if you are involved in a NAMI locally.
NAMI Dane County, yes, and
Dane County.
NAMI Wisconsin do a great, the resources, they have people you can talk to, they can direct you, and they just do more than the mental health stuff, their recovery, and they'll do anything that they can do to get you back on your feet mentally. On our next episode of Survive and Thrive 8791, we will have another amazing guest in the Buck and Honey's remote studios who will share how they learn to survive and thrive. If you have a story to share or you know someone who does, please reach out to me at tdecora@gmail.com. Until next time, hang in there with whatever you happen to be going through, and with hard work, dedication, and determination, you can survive and thrive. Until next time, take care.